Okay, I guess we'll start the recap now. I did record it this time, and my mic is unmuted. I forgot to unmute it last time, but it's okay. This time I did remember. So, first thing is, I go through the exact same things on every market recap. It's crypto first, and then we go to the top stocks I'm watching, and then we go to all the other stocks. So, we'll start off with Bitcoin here, and as we reject this red zone like we did for the last 2 weeks pretty nastily, this week I think it's going to be pretty interesting. I think this week will probably be more bullish. We did end up actually losing the 200-day moving average shortly for 2 days, and then we ended up reclaiming it, and we're about to bounce off of it today going into tomorrow. And I think if I had to guess, off of next week, we could at least see a move to these moving average. Now we're looking, if we want to see this green zone, we are looking for a rejection to that 50-day moving average, okay? And, you know, a lot of people, when they look at a chart, they say, well, we lost the 200-day moving average, I'm selling, you know, I'm shorting here. But they don't understand that that's what literally every single person is looking at, and it doesn't really play out as you think it does, right? Let's go back at the start of 2025 and let's see how we reacted there, okay? We first started off with losing the 50-day moving average. Then right here was the very first candle we lost that 200-day moving average. Stayed underneath it, rejected it even, and then we did reclaim it literally on the third day of closing below, which I think, so we reclaimed it on the second day of closing below. But once we did close above, we did end up actually rejecting this 50-day moving average, and then that made us trend down until we reached more into this buy zone, right? And that signaled the bottom for Bitcoin back in April. And that's exactly what I want to see going into this week. This week, I want us to see a rejection to this 50-day moving average. If you want to get even more fancy, we could even draw a sell zone right there. A very small one, but it is one, either or less. Could be like this. So if we want to go lower, we need to reject this. And then we're going to look for sub 100K, right? And now we did go over this in the last recap, or not the recap, so the video I posted last week of my entire BTC chart. So we know that we're expecting at least sub 100K, but the ideal pullback level is 80K, although that is super low. Again, anything's possible if we do get the same pullback like I did back in April for a few months, which is just into the end of 2025, the end of this year, going into 2026, then we will pull back to that 80 grand level most likely. I personally don't think so. I personally think we do pull back to the sub 100K level, this green zone, and we do hold it as support. I think this pullback is going to be very short-lived, and then we go for more rip up. But the data says, off of that bank report I have, that we will be bearish at the end of the year. I personally don't think so, though. But, you know, we'll see what the market wants to do, what it wants to say. Regardless, we are pretty risk-off right now until we find a bottom. But overall, I don't think Bitcoin's over yet. There's a chance, I guess. I mean, a really really hard to say. I guess we would have to reclaim that 50-day moving average again. And once we reclaim it, then that would be probably a sign, really. Because, I mean, to really invalidate this bearish thesis, we would have to just completely close above. And then it's kind of too late, right? So I'm not buying anything related to Bitcoin until we hit that green zone. If we don't, then I'll miss the move. And we'll see, we'll go to 160. Or maybe even lower than that. But ETH, now let's move on to ETH. ETH is the same thing. ETH actually looks a lot better than Bitcoin. We did bounce off the buy zone. We did bounce off that 50% fib. It looks like Subway 4. This is super bullish for ETH right now. And honestly, this could be the bottom. Could very well could be the bottom. But if Bitcoin is not in the bottom, so if Bitcoin does go bullish, right, and we don't see the buy zone, this is an amazing buy for ETH. If Bitcoin does go down and we do see this bottom, the bottom and sub 100k level, then ETH will also dump more, and we'll probably see 3,200 if I had to guess. We'll probably come down here to 3,000 to 3,200. If we want to go really deep, which I don't think we will see 2,800, but that's also a level there. But I'm mainly watching this 3,200, 3,300 level around here. That is also the 50-day moving average. That is the start of the deep value zone, which is like right there. But overall pretty bullish. Let me look. Do I have that wave 5 marked? Okay, I don't. Well, if we go off the subwave really ends here. But I think this wave 5 will go a little bit higher just so we can see that main wave 3 target. But overall, I mean, ETH was not a bad buy for sure, especially if we had some limit orders at the buy zone, which the new portfolio I created over the weekend going to this next week, which I'll be tracking live for everyone. All I'm literally going to do is buy stocks that hit the green zone. That is it. It's like I'm literally just going to place limit orders on the zone. As soon as we hit it, I get filled, okay? Just DCAing for long term and also some swing trading just to see how well the portfolio can do. With no confirmation, just getting that really early entries and just DCAing and then writing out. So basically, basically no stop losses in a way. Chart-wise, I mean, until a thesis completely changes, but until then, I don't think I'll probably add a stop loss to it. It's more just long-term buying on zones, just to see how well long-term investors can do with an elite wave, right? So, and then Sol, I mean, not really looking at it right now. It's not a good buy until we start outperforming ETH, and even right now we're down more than ETH is. Let's see, what was last week? Last week we're down almost 4.7%. ETH was down 4.1, so it's almost outperforming ETH last week, but not quite. So we're not there yet into that Sol rotation. But once Bitcoin finds a bottom, Sol could pop off a lot. Because I think ETH already made a new all-time high, versus Sol, it still hasn't. So I think this signals and shows that we do have one more leg up in the market. Now, will we see its main wave 3 target at 562? I absolutely highly doubt it. But I mean, anything's possible. I don't know. If you do see a ETH, if you see ETH movement like this, then for sure. But I'm not quite sure if we will get it. But that's basically the crypto side. I mean, there's a few alts, but I mean, I could care less about the alts. Bitcoin dominance, I guess. Bitcoin dominance, we did end up rejecting this key level up here, but looks like we're going to trend higher, and this isn't the bottom of the Bitcoin dominance unless we start rejecting this soon, but doesn't really look like it right now. So right now there's no weakness shown here, so it still looks like Bitcoin is the leader. ETH compared to Bitcoin, we did bounce at that zone right there. Looks like it could pop off soon. I think the rotation into ETH is going to be pretty soon, but we just need to see where Bitcoin wants to go. Sold to Bitcoin, looks like trash. Sold to ETH. We retested that key level. Will it hold? Probably not. That's weird. It's showing that Sol outperformed ETH last week. I don't think it did. Minus 4.1. Minus 4.7. No, it didn't. Huh, that's interesting. I guess I was looking at it wrong. Oh well. But yeah, no, overall, I think Bitcoin will definitely hit that buy zone. Now let's move on to stocks real quick. And again, I did zero preparation for this. I literally just come in here, review the charts live for you guys, so you see basically everything I do to prep for the week. It's not much. I mainly just look at the charts and see what I'm going to be watching. Nike right now is not the best, but we are pretty close to this buy zone. We did end up rejecting this key level here, and we did invalidate some support, but you know, if we can, I have a limit order placed on Webull at 62.43. If we do hit there, I'm buying, because once we do find a bottom in this market, then I think Nike definitely could be a good performer here. That would be a gap fill for this massive earning gap, because gaps most of the time always fill, and I think this will definitely be a good strong support level to buy at. But or we can close above the key level on the weekly. If we close above that, then that'd be pretty solid. But you know, I don't really like when it comes to setups like Nike or anything else. If we bounce at the buy zone and I don't buy at the buy zone, and I'm adding my first entry above a key level, I hate doing that because I'm entries super high from that buy zone, right? You want to get that entry closest as you can to that buy zone without trying to, call the bottom, right? Depending on the strategy, again, I'll be testing this with my portfolio live with y'all guys to just buy at the green zone and not even using any confirmation or anything else like that just to track it. But, you still want to get that entry as close as that green zone. So, maybe I need to be more risk on and buy some more at the green zone. Like, maybe since my start positions are like 5 to maybe 10%, I might need to increase it to like maybe 15% every time, or 10% minimum. But, that'll come in time and we'll be testing. Duolingo, I do have some heavy concerns on going into this next week. I do think this is actually very bearish. I know my bag hold is hard to say. I know. It's really tough to say that, but, I mean, if you look at this, I think this is definitely going to pull back. I'm not going to lie. So, we have a rejection to this 50-day moving average, and then we have no rejection as a red candle. So far, not great. Now, we did hold this key level. We still held it. So, not necessarily bearish, but now I'm about to show you, and we also invalidated this resistance, which is good. But now I'm about to show you is not a good sign. We dropped time frames. Daily did lose the 200-day moving average. I think that's, this is the 200-day moving average. We rejected it, and we lost a 50-day moving average, close below it, and hard rejected it. Okay, that's not a good sign. But it's not even the biggest concern. Let's drop a time frame now to the 4-hour. Okay, 4-hour trend line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 touches. A gap below, clear rejection, and rejecting both MAs right there. Red candle on that retest. And then that last 4-hour before close is a perfect rejection again. So going into this next week, let's go back to the weekly time frame. Let's look at the levels we're watching. Okay. There's not much support here, and that was one issue I was looking at Duolingo at the start. We never made real support other than this key level, right? Our support level is this. Okay. So really, I guess in a way, it's not a clean one, but it's the support level, I guess. Now, if we use the fib here, really the value, that's really the buy zone. That's really the buy zone. So it is really small, and that's why I was looking at that for Duolingo. It's very iffy on that if we actually will bounce there. So, and especially the market pullbacks until the end of October, maybe the mid of November. That's a long time to pull back just to see this short level. So Duolingo would have to be green during this pullback for the market. Unless we don't get it. Now, if we don't get it, then Duolingo will be super bullish. But if we do get it, personally, I don't see this holding. My wishful thinking would say I want to see it hold. But, there's a chance that it doesn't. Because also, another model, which I'll make either tonight or this week, usually there's photos and I map out the systems. So I'll make one about the trend lines. I did one about trend line, but I need to go more in depth on it. So when a trend line breaks like that, Okay, the key levels that we are watching for a bounce when we break are every single touch, right? So this touch, and then this touch, right? And you actually can see it, right? If you mark a key level here, we did bounce off of it. So that's basically what I'm watching. And when we do break below, majority of the time, like it's very rare that we don't see the bottom of that trend line, right? So if we see that bottom of the trend line, that means we're going back into the green zone, right? Which means if you have your entry far away from this green zone, like say at this key level, like if you waited for a key level break before the enter, and if you entered, I mean, you're looking at a 20% drawdown back into that green zone, right? And if we sweep, or if we go to the 200-day moving average, now you're looking at 35% drawdown, right? Which is why I started that second portfolio to test it and see what happens if you just literally just buy at green zones, right? Off of higher lows, the first bounce of the green zone, whatever. So there is a chance the Duolingo does go down and gives you a second opportunity at 260 or even 213. However, I definitely do not want us to see that, but the chart right now is saying that we will, so which is very unfortunate. But we'll see what time says. I mean, we still got next week. I'm pretty bullish for the market going into next week, so maybe that'll give us some relief. But the bottom is not in for the market right now. I mean, at least looking at the VIX, that 36.93 level has not been hit, and it will be hit. It's going to be hit for sure, 100%. It's just a matter of when. Okay. That's actually that's actually a perfect setup going for what I thought into this week. So right now, VIX. Let's go to the daily time frame. Target, that's a gap. VIX always fills the gaps. Always, 100% of the time, always will fill a gap. Okay. Now it's just a matter of when will it fill the gap. Usually, it doesn't wait too long before it fills. So I think it's definitely going to fill soon, which I think is going to be, again, sometime from now to the end of October to the middle of November. Okay. Now, if we look at VIX here, we actually just made a prime support level with the MAs. Okay, bullish fair value gap right here. Okay. Now, going into Monday, going into this week, if we want to seek that zone for that higher low for VIX, then we would want to see a down move right here and then a massive up move going into this level. Okay. Now, if we do see this week going into the market, will give Bitcoin that chance to actually reject that 50-day moving average, okay, that zone. So right now, that is my thesis going into this week. We bounced into that zone, make a higher low off that support zone, bounce off those MAs, and then going to end of October to the middle of November, we trend back up and go to 36, which could happen in 1 week, could happen 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, who knows, okay? So that's VIX. I'll keep this here just so I can go back to it. Let's look at NVO, because I know a lot of people, because I think that news came out. Was it Trump who said, I believe it was something to do with Trump with subsidized or something like that? It was something bad, and it dumped all health stocks, but NVO actually held, I think, the best, right? I mean, let's compare it to HIMS real quick. How did HIMS do that day? Holy shit. Terrible. Okay. Minus almost 16%, which we are in that green zone. Again, we will most of the time seek those green zones. And right now, we never hit the green zone. I said we would, and now we are. So, but we're just not about HIMS. So NVO actually held up really well compared to HIMS. And right now, we are holding this hedge fund liquidity zone. Go to the daily. And I can change this to institutional liquidity zone, institutional orders. But I did not spell it, to be honest, so I just put hedge fund liquidity. But we do have this gap here that needs to be filled for NVO, so if we do have a bullish week, we could go and fill that gap. But I don't see it lasting. I think it's going to be faded out pretty quick for this pullback. I'm still bullish on NVO, but I think, we still have a gap right here that needs to be filling. So I think we will go up this week, seek that gap, and then we'll go lower. And some either bounce here, or there also is a chance that we take out this low, and then we, sweep that liquidity and take the orders down there. It really depends on the market, right? A lot of people can sit here and market stock like this and just say, I think we're bounced here. Because if I just look at NVO, I think we will bounce at that gap right here at 52.43, I think we will. But then if you include the VIX, and then you include Bitcoin, and then you include the overall market at SPY and everything else, then you can know that most likely that zone's not going to hold because you know where the market's going to go, right? And I think that's the one mistake a lot of people make when it comes to always wave theory, right? They look at just the chart for that one stock, and they don't use any, I guess, say back-end knowledge going into it for the market or Bitcoin, or SPY, or the VIX, with all this other stuff, right? They just look at a chart, look at the model, and then they draw it off of it. But the model is only good if it has context, right? You can't just draw something there with no context and you have no reasoning behind it, no why, right? You have to. That's why my strategy works so well, because there's a why behind everything, right? So NVO, looking at key level for strong support levels, 52.35. If the market pulls back a lot, which I think it will, we could retest those lows, right? We could chop here, right? Again, the market's going to tell us what it wants to do once we reach that 52.43 level. But that is basically NVO. It's not a bad setup. I mean, we didn't break the key level yet, but I'm not too concerned about that. I think we eventually will. It's a big company. And if we do bounce here, by the way, we don't sweep this low. That is a inverse head and shoulders. Okay. So that is also really bullish. Now it would be a higher low. This is a higher low zone actually. So this could be the loading up zone, the DCA zone, right? We're holding perfectly fine. Like if I was super bullish on NVO, I would absolutely be loading up here, in which I will be for sure. And especially once we find a bounce. If we hold the zone and after the market is done for its pullback and we're about to be bullish going to the end of November or whatever, I am so buying a ton of NVO at this zone if we hold it. Okay. Now JD actually has also been holding pretty strongly. It's been holding this higher low zone, barely kept it, almost invalidated it, but we did get that clear rejection. Overall, JD is pretty solid here. There's not much I'm really watching about JD. There is a big bearish zone right here that we just made, so we could chop below it or at it, or we could close above it. We'll see what the market tells us to. This is a China ADR, so it's a little bit more tricky of guessing where it's going to go because it's not really completely related to the U.S. stock market completely. It definitely is still somewhat correlated, but it's not. I'm not really too concerned about it. We still have these zones to hold. We never broke any key levels, I don't think. Well, I guess we broke this small one. We broke that small one and did retest it, but it doesn't really matter if we broke a key level if there's resistance here that we reject, if that makes sense. Lululemon, I think bomb is pretty soon. Actually, Lululemon held up last week pretty well. We did retest that buy zone, bounced on it pretty well. Daily, not so much. That was not a clean bounce on the daily, but the weekly was a pretty strong bounce. This key level, we didn't break above this key level. This key level is off of this candle here. Once we close above that, I will be a buyer, and same with this key level right there. I think the bottom for Lulu is coming in pretty soon. Let's check the RSI. No, there's no divergence. Well, there's a huge divergence right here, huge one, which signals the bottom is definitely soon. So Lulu here, buying at the zone. Honestly, Lulu is one of the subs that you can probably just buy at the zone. Every time I hit the green zone, just buy. Honestly, this is a setup you don't really need too much confirmation on because of that bullish RSI divergence. When you have a bullish RSI divergence that big, going to a super bullish end of the year possibly, then it could be pretty safe, right? Lulu, I could say I would definitely consider this a safe risk buying this. Same with, I think Omega AI also has it as a safe risk. So overall, Lulu is pretty good. We already went over Nike, OSCR. That's high risk. I have this as high risk. Even for Omega AI, it is considered high risk. Yes, we're still pretty low into wave 3. Target for wave 3 is at 46. We're at freaking $19. It is an absolute huge increase. That's 104% gain, right? So when you're looking at that, you're looking at that's a pretty safe bet. But then you look at false breakout, rejected resistance, rejected hard here. Bearish news came out there last week. I don't know how bad it was, don't know, but overall, there's not really much support. I mean, this support right here, it already bounced on it though. So do we bounce the same support twice? less likely, and especially since it's not discount support. So it looks like OCR is going to pull back to at least these moving averages, if not touch this green zone again, but at least these two moving averages, possibly that 200-day moving average, depending how much the market's going to pull back. Now, once we pull back to this moving average, now is it a safe bet if we hold it? Absolutely. Now that can change from risk on to now pretty safe bet. Okay. Path. If we do see this red zone going into the end of the year, I'm gonna laugh so hard. I made this chart as a joke, but if it plays out, it's gonna be freaking funny. I mean, it's the right chart. I mean, the chart's accurate. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's just super bullish. Will it actually play out? Who knows? CLSK, hard rejection going into week. Again, literally the exact same model system I just showed you with trend lines, okay? Look at that. Barcode. Break a trend line, retest it. Majority of the time, we will see the top of that trend line, okay? Mark that as your key level. Hard rejection. Now, Bitcoin pulls back, CLSK pulls back for another retest to this trendline breakout. Okay, pretty simple stuff. If it somehow holds really well during the Bitcoin pullback, then somewhere like right around here. But I think we'll retest that $12 level. Okay, we may even wake up here and take out wave 1's high before pulling back. And if we have a bullish week, which I think we will, come up here, reject this, and then go down, possibly, but we'll see. Tesla actually held up pretty strong. I mean, it could, Subway 4, I guess, could be over, but I do want to see that purple zone, but it's not really anything I'd be too concerned about. I'm definitely not buying a new position at this purple zone at all. That would be a DCA or a buy after you have your average super freaking low. You've been buying at the bottom of the wave 4, like I've been screaming at everyone on X about. But wave 5 target still not hit, looking at 491 and above. Major wave 3 target is at about 750. So Tesla, good buy right now. Risky play, not a buy. Used to be, too late now. AMD, not a buy again, risky. We have a massive gap up. Once we do pull back, AMD will probably pull back with it just to fill this gap. UNH, same thing. I want that higher low. I really want to see a bloodbath in the market to grab these higher lows. Okay, higher low for UNH would be absolutely fantastic. This would 100% go into my portfolio if we see that. UPS, that actually was a pretty good week, not gonna lie, but we still need to break that key level. I can go ahead and remove that, but key level needs a break before I'll even look for entry, or we see this buy zone. Personally, I'd rather see us see the buy zone. I don't want us to see it close above the key level, and then the market pulls back and takes us to the green zone, and then turns into a fake out. Do not want that. Okay. But there's my top picks. Let me scan. I'll scan some stocks in here. EUSE, hard rejection. It was down like an insane amount from this weekly high, or down 20% since that high. But rejected that resistance as of right now. But we'll see how that plays out. CVA, rejection to that key level, no break above, ONTO. CMG, rejected key level. I want to see it close above that, and I'll probably add that to my portfolio. Not amazing stuff I'm watching, but I mean, it is a setup. CNK. Not bad, we're holding the zone. It just looks weird. Grab, pretty bearish on Grab. I want to see 460. That is the level I want to see. People have been doubting this chart on Twitter. A lot of hate. Grab has a lot of, I guess you can say, a big fan base, perma bulls, but it's definitely clear resistance rejection. At least go see that 50-day moving average. Right. This is the 200-day moving average for some reason. It looks like it should be this, but no, it's not. So we want to go see it, test that 50-day moving average at the least, but preferably our green zone. Bros bounce off that green zone again. This is where I got the idea. Just buy at green zone, right? If you buy off the green zone, you about here, you about here, you about here, maybe even here off of this moving average retest. Could even buy here. So we'll see how it plays out. Galaxy. I want to see Subway 4 pull back. It is a small cap. We have earnings in 2 days. I'm not, a specialty in that. But my thoughts on earnings. So someone said that they're going to live stream it, and people don't live stream earnings if they're going to be bad, which is true. It definitely could have amazing earnings, but that does not mean it will go up. Okay, companies can have great earnings and still go down, right? You can look at it's more of sell the news, right? Tesla came out on 10/10, right, last year, right? That actually I bought it the day after when it crashed, and I was like pretty close to the bottom, right? 10/10, everyone's saying, oh, super bullish for Tesla, it's gonna rip. The news day drop was actually pretty good. I mean, I thought it was good. And then, the stock dumped like 10%, 10 or 15% the next day, right? Every night it was just dumping. It was just bleeding like crazy, right? It knows they had the event, it went well. They're showing off the robots and crap like that and their new vehicles, but still dumped us. It's more of, that's why it's tricky because you don't really know. I mean, it could have amazing earnings, maybe freaking huge gap up that very well might play out. It's just, I wouldn't be have so much conviction into it and then put a lot of money on it. Now, if we're at buy zone going to that earnings, then absolutely. But buying it into earnings at resistance zone is just it's against my morals. It's a sin. Can't do that. But I mean, we definitely can just gap straight up to this main wave 3 target after earnings. Like, I mean, anything can happen. But I'm just saying, be careful. And this insane stock. We had a chart for this. We're super bullish back here. I just completely forgot about it. It was a freaking low cap, and it got delisted for a couple years. So I was like, didn't really want to mess with it, but it did actually play out fantastically. Actually, I can prove that on the DMs. I was messaging with some money manager, and I was talking to him about this, and he loved it, but he was also permeable, and they ended up blocking me because I said I'm not buying in this up here. So I know it's controversial, but let's see, FSLR. There's not really many other setups I'm too curious about. CRM, we did reject back into its wedge. I still want to see that green zone. I don't know. CRM, I've just been hammering that green zone. Now, is this the standard pullback level? Absolutely not. This is super deep pullback if CRM sees this green zone. But for some reason, I really want to see it. I've been wanting that green zone for a long time now, ever since we saw this wave 5. I think it's just because there's a ton of freaking liquidity down there on the monthly time frame. And usually the markets are going to go seek that imbalance and go seek this liquidity for orders. OPFI, nasty rejection to that key level or resistance zone. Inside the buy zone now, but we bounce? Probably not. Zeta, I want to see 16. This is a pretty good lotto play if we see $16, in my opinion. I think it's pretty solid. Especially if by the time you see the green zone, the 200-day moving average. No, I don't think the 200-day moving average is going to see this green zone. And I think we're not. Yeah, no, I don't think we're going to go to 200-day moving average. I think that green zone is going to hold more. OKLO, absolutely just insane. Crowd strike, rejection to resistance. I'll make this purple. But not buying. IONQ, nasty rejection to resistance. Absolutely nasty. Oracle, again, looks terrible. HIMS, looks terrible, not buying that crap. I hate the company, but we do a bullfight here. So if we do hold this hedge fund liquidity zone, that'll be pretty good, but overall, I don't think so. I think we'll actually see it probably never test this bottom of this wedge to this green zone again. That will go into that end of the month pullback. But yeah, I mean, it just him doesn't stand out to me. We were rejected this red zone. We could be down to wave 5. Now wave 5 didn't make a new high, which usually it does. So I think HIMS will go higher, but it doesn't have to, I guess, right? Usually the general rule is every single wave has to make a new high, right? It has to go higher than the previous one. But, there can be exceptions to it. It's not a hard rule that I have seen yet, but I do believe HIMS will go higher. There's not a clear bounce yet. It's a weird chart. If you start bouncing down here, then probably, if you see a strong bounce, then I will. But until then, I'm not touching this. I think that's basically it. If y'all only want to MSTR, close build the buy zone, looks terrible. Unless we gap above it, gap up and go into the green zone, or we close back in the green zone for this upcoming week, then it could be good. But overall, Bitcoin's going to pull back. When it does, MSTR is going to see 177. And I had that level marked out for a long time. I had that marked out over here. It was my bear case along with my bull case. And I never liked MSTR. I just hate it. Its leverage doesn't follow Bitcoin exactly. It's red when Bitcoin's red. So, or when Bitcoin's green. So, not really hate MSTR. But 177 would be pretty decent for people who do love it. Coinbase, people were asking if they should have bought it down here. I said no. Looks like it is playing out overall. You could have caught this wave B in a wave, but I don't really try to catch wave B. I catch the major move. So Coinbase pull back to 240 and below to 184 will be a pretty solid support zone. That is also the 200-day moving average. And that's basically it. I mean, there's SoFi, but wave 4. Wave 4. If y'all have any stocks you want me to cover, because I know a lot of y'all don't have, I don't have y'all stocks on the watch list. I usually chart it when y'all ask and then wait for y'all to ask for it again. But if y'all have any, drop it in chat. If not, then I guess I'll end this one here. I was going to drop a small lesson at the end, but I kind of did it with the trend lines, so that will be the lesson. But I'm pretty excited going into this next week. I think it'll be pretty solid. But I see no requests, so I'm going to here ending the recording.